Bearded dragons. This reptile's popularity has exploded over the years, and rightly so. They are amazing pets, full of character and surprisingly easy to care for. Are you looking on getting your first bearded dragon? Maybe you've recently got one. Have you been doing research and has it just left you scratching your head? I'm going to break this video down into two parts. I will do the first part on what I feel that you need to know before you buy your bearded dragon, and the second part once you've bought your bearded dragon. I'll post a link in the description below to the second part of this video. My name's Chris, this is Mango, and welcome to Snappy Reptile Care. There are several types of bearded dragon that are available in the trade, and what this video is going to be is on the central bearded dragon, which is the most commonly kept worldwide. Now bear in mind, if you are looking at or got one of the other different species of bearded dragon, do the research on your specific one, but there is overlapping in their care. Now where do these reptiles come from? Well, they are an Australian native, but yours won't exactly have come from Australia. There has been an export ban since the 60s, so anything we find in the trade now has been captive bred. So how big are they going to get? Most bearded dragons are going to get around about 18 to 24 inches, with males tending to be on the larger side of that. Although if you have a bit of a nip tail, you're never going to quite achieve your full size, I'm afraid. How long are you going to have these for? Well, they can live up to 15 years, and so this is a long-lived pet. Are you prepared to have your lizard for that long? First consideration should be, can you accommodate a bearded dragon? They are not a massive lizard, but they are not small. Ideally, fully grown, they're going to want at least a 48 inch by 18 by 18 enclosure. You can start smaller for a youngster, but be aware they do grow quite quickly. There are several materials available to you, such as wood, PVC or glass vivariums. Personally, I think that wood or PVC are the best. Both of them are fairly easy to work with, to set up with the lighting and heating, and to modify to enrich your dragon's life. I would normally, in my cases, lean towards wood. I think for the most part, most people starting out with one vivarium is readily available and very easy to work with. Also, feel free to go larger with the size of the enclosure than I just stated. Let's be honest, who doesn't want a bigger house when somebody else is picking up the bill? Did you know it's illegal to keep bearded dragons in Hawaii? Owning one of these reptiles, along with some others, could get you a $200,000 fine and 3 years in jail. Now, is it worth taking that risk? No, definitely not. But hey, if my video gets out far enough, maybe somebody out there could request some information on a reptile that they can have. What is substrate? If you've never heard that word before, basically it's just what we put on the floor of our reptiles' enclosures, and there are a lot available. This is a very hot topic amongst reptile keepers, and it can be hard to find clear advice. So there are two that I would steer clear of. First off, aspen bedding. Just doesn't work well with bearded dragons, doesn't look the most comfortable thing to walk on, doesn't heat up properly, and also when they grab their live foods they have a tendency to take in mouthfuls of it. The second one, calci sand. Now this calcium based bedding, in my experience, is just the wrong grain size. Small enough that as they grab their live foods or lick the floor they will take in large quantities of it, but large enough that it can get caught in their gut and build up, causing something called impaction. Now if you've never come across this before, basically it is the build up of something like their bedding inside the gut and can be fatal. Very dangerous, well, more dangerous in smaller bearded dragons and smaller lizards. So what beddings can we use? There are two main types to choose from. You have either particulates, which is a loose, more like sand or soil type bedding, and then non-particulate. So these are more solid, fixed items. Both have their pros and cons. So I'll start with the particulates, the loose beddings. Now, in my experience, the Habitat bearded dragon bedding is a good substrate to use. Its small particles are small enough to pass through, causing no issues, and the larger ones in there are too big to be eaten. Another really good mix is the Arcadia Arid. Another really good mix is the Arcadia Arid Mix Substrate. It is a fantastic bedding. Exoterra also do a similar product, but again sometimes maybe a bit too much choice on the particle sizes for your dragon. Just remember, all particulate beddings come with some risk of it being eaten. Keep a check on your dragon's behaviour. Are they taking in great mouthfuls of it every time they're eating? If they are, I would recommend you change it immediately. So, your next option is your non-particulate, your solid items. These will generally remove any risk of bedding being eaten and are probably safer, especially for younger bearded dragons. Now, as a maybe more of a middle ground, Exoterra do a sand mat. Now, this is a foam mat with sand particles stuck all over it. And it can look really nice, just bear in mind that loose pieces can come off. Your next option may be something more like Reptile carpets. Now, these are a felt type material, and I'm not really a fan of them myself personally. They can get claws stuck in them and it can cause a bit of a problem. But generally keeping on top of your reptile's nail health will help minimise the chance of this becoming any sort of an issue. Another issue I have found with carpets is that the live foods can hide underneath and stay basically away from your reptile, which can lead, without proper checking, to a lot of live foods being inside the tank with your lizard. An alternative I prefer to these is rough natural tiles. They have very minimal risk of nails getting stuck, in fact quite the opposite, they'll help keep the nails in control for you. They come in a wide variety of colours and styles, just keep to rough ones, it will give them extra grip. You can get them cut exactly to size and they are super easy to clean and disinfect and put back in. Other options as well are newspaper and kitchen roll. Both of these, they don't look very nice, but they are extremely cheap, very quick and easy to change. In fact, I've had a lizard in the past which had a wound on it, and it meant that I could keep the enclosure extremely clean with daily cleans. Did you know that bearded dragons can communicate through a variety of methods, such as head bobbing, showing their beard, and waving their hands? Slow hand waving is usually a sign of submission. So that's right, when your bearded dragon slow waves at you, it is recognising you as the big mother dragon that you are. Bearded dragons are some of the easiest reptiles to furnish for, predominantly coming from rocky and dry areas. You need to provide areas so that they can thermoregulate their body temperature and also hide if they feel threatened. Personally, I do prefer a more natural look, and most people I've met who keep bearded dragons want to give them this natural look, but don't feel pressured, give it your personal touch. Adding something as cheap and easy as a few rocks and some logs can really make your bearded dragon happy. Just make sure, especially with rocks, they are well secured before you leave them alone with your bearded dragon. As for live plants which are available and becoming more popular with reptiles, there are quite a few available, but I don't always think that these are a wise idea for a reptile that pretty much has to try eating anything inside its tank, especially leafy plants. Maybe something more like cacti are a safer option, but yeah, avoid anything with leaves. They'll try and eat anything. We'll now look at the electrical requirements for beardies, and there are many ways to heat these bearded dragons, such as heat mats, heat rocks, reptile radiators, deep heat bulbs, and many more. So long as you achieve the temperatures we are looking for and the temperature gradients, so that is the hot end to the cool end, so that they can control their body temperature, it doesn't matter too much how you get there. I'm going to recommend the way I would do it, and if you choose to do this or another route, make sure you get that gradient. When I'm looking at what temperature to keep my reptiles at, I don't just go on Google and type in what temperature should I keep a bearded dragon at? I'll have a look and do some research into where these reptiles come from and have a look at what the actual temperature is. Like I said at the start of this video, these are from Central Australia. I'll use Lee Creek as my point of reference for these guys, as it's fairly central to their natural habitats. It has average daytime highs of about 95 degrees Fahrenheit and nighttime temperatures of about 75. Now this is during the summer months. So I work around these figures and I give them ideally a hot end of up to around about the 90 degrees Fahrenheit mark. Yes, they can take it hotter than that, but you don't necessarily want to be baking all the time. And a nighttime drop off of no less ideally than about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, to accurately monitor your reptile's enclosure, I would recommend use of a digital thermometer, especially ones from Enclosure, and there are some other non-branded ones out there which can give you a low and a high reading, so you can reset it, come back to it in, let's say, the morning, and you've run it overnight. You won't know when the lowest temperature was, but you'll know what the lowest temperature was. So how are we going to achieve these temperatures? For a bearded dragon, something as simple as a basking lamp placed way over to one side will be enough to heat them. I'd normally recommend in a 4-foot enclosure either a 100 or 150 watt basking lamp from either Arcadia or from Enclosure, hooked up to a dimming thermostat. This will read the air temperature for you and scale your bulb up and down as your temperature needs to be. Now, there are a lot of external factors that can affect the temperature of your enclosure, so keep them out of direct sunlight. It will just turn into a greenhouse in there and just get hotter and hotter and hotter uncontrollably, and ideally keep them out of drafts and away from external heat sources like radiators. This is why I recommend you get everything set up and running at least a day or two before you get your lizard home. You don't want the stress of trying to perfect and correct the temperatures, all the while you have possibly a baby bearded dragon going cold or getting hot, not eating properly, while you're stressing about tank temperatures. Did you know your bearded dragon actually has 3 eyes? So it's not like the normal blinking ones on the side of the head, but it does have a lens and a retina. Rather than being connected to the visual part of the brain, it is a special set of cells in the center of their head that allows them to detect light, UV rays, shadow, and maybe even help them navigate. When through a use of light and shadow detection, they will detect overhead birds of prey that may try and eat them. So when you're picking up your bearded dragon, bear this in mind. Approach them from the sides. Try not to cast shadows over them, especially youngsters. Bearded dragons require ultraviolet light. Their bodies have developed to be out in the Australian sun. As with everything else, there are quite a few options available to us, which can give very different light patterns, UV range, life expectancy of the bulb. Personally, I find the Arcadia T5 kits best. If your vivarium is 18 to 24 inches tall, I'd recommend the 14% beardy bulb, and if it's 18 inches or less, I'd recommend the 12% bulb from them. Now, pick a bulb which is around about a foot or so shorter than your vivarium, and when you place it, put it more to the basking side. This will allow them to be able to go under the basking lamp and collect UV rays. But also, if they choose to get out of the UV, which they would do in the wild when they went under rocks, they can go to the cooler side. Always keep in mind that your UV bulbs can have a life expectancy of anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So if you're not sure, keep a check on the packaging, ask where you're getting the bulb from, and a lot of the bigger companies actually do provide a reminder service which you need to sign up for online. The UV is important for many reasons. The main two I'd say are stimulation of the pineal gland through the third eye, which will make your bearded dragon want to get up and do day-to-day things. But it is also linked to calcium storage. How? Well, simply put, the UV rays react with a chemical on the skin and as a byproduct create vitamin D. Vitamin D helps us store calcium. So an important add-on is to get a good calcium and multivitamin supplement for your bearded dragon's diet. I'll cover diet more in the next video. Another thing before you get your bearded dragon home is to find somewhere that sells the live foods that you need to feed your bearded dragon, especially when you're buying it from a private breeder who won't be able to offer you live food afterwards. There are plenty of places online you can order it and get it delivered, but why not go give some love to your small shops as well? Go chat to some people who have a genuine interest and love in your pet as much as you do. That's it for this part of the bearded dragon care. I'll put a link in the description below for the second part of this video. I'll also put links for the products that I've recommended, so it'll be everything you need to put together a bearded dragon enclosure. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, hit that like button, consider subscribing. I've got a load more reptiles that I'd like to do these videos on. Thanks for watching.